Hey guys, welcome to Priceless B Movies. I got a little confession for you. I'm one of those kind of film snobs to a degree where I think that certain things always have to line up or the movie is no good. There's a lot of movies that come out in mainstream where a lot of people I know will say, "Oh, this is so great. It was so fun. It was so entertaining," but I'm always the one nitpicking at it. And maybe that's just the critic in me, but there's just things I feel have to be good. Your cinematography has to be good. Your actors have to be good. And your soundtrack has to be good, among other things. I'll say this for this movie. The soundtrack for this movie is awesome. I spent way more time listening to this soundtrack, 2 or 3 tracks in particular, than I am willing to admit to all of YouTube. The Guest. So The Guest stars Dan Stevens as David. I put quotations there because in the credits he's even quoted as David, as if, who knows if that's even his real name. David's a soldier and he just came back from the war, and he goes to visit a family because he knew their son when he was out at war. And he basically goes and kind of introduces himself, and he says, "Well, like I was your son's friend in war, and I want you to know that he was a great man," and yada yada. And this is the kind of scene that we see in a lot of war films. But basically, this family is a little gullible, especially the mom. And before thinking too much about it, she decides to allow David to come in and crash in the house for a little while. Why people do things like that is completely beyond me. I mean, it's like the one stupid decision that you could possibly make, but we wouldn't have a plot without it. David gets to meet a couple other members of the family, including the daughter, played by Micah Monroe, I hope I pronounced that right, who was also in a movie called It Follows that just came out that I wasn't really a fan of. But here, she is really good, so I'll give her that. The problem with David is, like, he's extremely charismatic. He really seems to be looking out for this family a bit more than he should, and people start dying, and here we go, you get what could have been yet another generic thriller about a character trying to tear a family apart from the inside, but The Guest is really a lot better than I just made it out to be. This film was directed by Adam Wingard, and it's got Adam Wingard all over it. I mean, you could tell. Even if you did not know that when you're watching the movie, you would have figured it out. This is the same man who did a couple segments for the VHS series, and he also did You're Next. And here, he's kind of showing off his love affair for John Carpenter. This really feels like an 80s thriller, like a straight 80s thriller. From the way that it's shot, there are a lot of scenes that mimic scenes from John Carpenter's Halloween, among other films, to the score, this heavy 80s synthesized score that, as I said earlier, is just awesome. I love the fuck out of this music. Dan Stevens is really fun to watch in this. No matter what aspect of the character he's playing, because obviously this is a deceptive character. He is not telling this family everything. But you cannot take your eyes off the guy. You should by all means hate him and think he's despicable, but especially toward the end, when he's capping people left and right, you're just like, oh yeah, nail that shit. In addition to the lead actors, I want to point out that also in the supporting cast, Leland Orser gives a really good performance as the father of this family, and Tabitha Shaw, even though she's only given a couple scenes, really does strike an image in this film too as one of the daughter's friends. And when you go into this movie, like I said about some movies that I reviewed, you're not looking for great acting. This wasn't a movie I was expecting great acting from. When I heard about it, what I'd heard was, oh, it's about this soldier who infiltrates this family, and, he kind of just, starts doing crazy shit, and, they have to deal with it. And that sounds like so many movies that already exist. I wasn't expecting a lot from this movie, and that might be why I liked it so much. This is a great example of a film taking a done and tired plot line and making it really entertaining. The only issue I really have with this film is that, you do eventually, you're told later in the story that David was experimented on by the military, and, that's why he's psychotic. They don't really explain exactly what his deal is, though. I mean, he's crazy, and there seems to be some method to his madness, but there's never an explanation as to what the military did to him, what the intention of this experiment was, what should have happened, or why he's the way he is now. It's almost like that was a subplot that was cut from the movie. That's really what it feels like. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case, but I would have really liked to have known what the hell this guy's deal was. I don't like to watch a movie about a crazy guy, having this vendetta and then not know why he's crazy, not have any real origin for him. In some movies that works. In this movie, I don't think it does, and it does kind of take away a little bit, but not that much. Really enjoyed this movie, but I wouldn't call it perfect. I would give The Guest 3.5 stars. This is a newer film, by the way. This just came out on DVD and Blu-ray a few months ago, but if you have the chance to check it out, please do. It's a really fun, really entertaining thriller. I really wish that they made more movies like this still today, because, as I said before, this does feel like the kind of thing that was done a lot in the 80s, but this really captures that spirit for me, and I really enjoy this movie every time I watch it. That's my review of The Guest. Stay tuned. I got a lot more reviews coming. Also, and as always, if there's a movie you can think of that's underappreciated or overlooked by either mainstream audiences or critics or both, and you'd like to know what I think about it, please let me know in the comment section below, and I'll see what I can do about checking out a copy of that movie and putting up a review for you. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more Priceless B movies.